Tell him, tell him, tell him, tell him, tell him, tell him, tell him. Oh yeah, yeah. Come on. We all need a little love when we get down in the dumps, because we gon' be alright. 'Cause the love and affection gonna help us make it through. But you know we gon' be alright. Let's go. Wanna improve your love life? Yeah, I can show you the steps if you don't know how.
Don't y'all never know each other better.
Gonna move you, gonna groove you, let me show you. Love is everything new, you know it. We gon' be alright. When you feel it in your bones and it makes you wanna go. We gon' be alright. On and on and on now. To the rhythm, sashaying all around.
Keep it on up until we are joined together.
Baby, you make me feel so good. But it doesn't matter. Love is everything new, you know it. We gon' be alright. When you feel it in your bones and it makes you wanna go. Yeah, we gon' be alright. Where my cousin at? Where he be at? Come on, give us a little something. Let's go. Hearts. Hey. 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 Break down. We all need a little love when we get down in the dumps, because we gon' be alright. 'Cause the love and affection gonna help us make it through. But you know we gon' be alright. We gon' be alright. A little bit louder. Everybody join together now. All around the world, yeah. We gon' be alright.
Happy Monday to each of you, and welcome to our show. This is Perspective Season 1, Episode 35, and it is absolutely great to be back with you all after having somewhat of a little break on last week, but it's great to be back. Good evening to everyone that's tuned in and everyone that will watch. Let's go ahead and get those shout outs out. Good evening to you, Mom. Thanks for tuning in. My big sis in the ATL, good to see you on. My sis from another Mr. Angela Newkirk, good to see you on. And Latoya, thanks for joining. And hello to everyone that is tuned in and will join. We have a great show planned tonight, and I don't want to delay the hour. Our guests, they are no stranger to the Perspective family. And at this time, I'm going to go ahead and bring them in because I'm excited and ready to get started. I think this is the first time that we've been together doing a show this year because of their schedules. But again, I'm glad to have them on. Our first guest, well, I don't want to even say guest. They become like family. But Jasmine Stinson, she's an educator and a therapist. Hello, hello, hello. Hey, Jasmine.
Hey, how are you? It's good to see you.
Good to see you again as well. Thanks for joining us as always. And then the great Anthony Sparks, the author, speaker, and development coach. Good evening to you. Good to see you again.
What's up, man? Good to be here.
Awesome, awesome. So let's jump right to it. And tonight, we kind of got away from doing our open discussion icebreakers, but as we dive into this conversation, I think y'all are gonna be glad that we did this icebreaker tonight in the open discussion. So let's get right to it. So for this week's open discussion, as always, if you like to comment during our open discussion, please comment during as we discuss it. So for this week, probably about 2 weeks ago, Birmingham City Council approved an agreement for Legion Field to host the annual football game classic between Morehouse College and Tuskegee, and that will actually start this fall. And the agreement that they signed is for the next 3 years. And for those who aren't familiar with this classic, the Morehouse Tuskegee Classic, this is the oldest HBCU classic in the nation, which would make it older than the Magic City Classic. And so to know that this game will be played in Birmingham 2 weeks before the Magic City Classic, it's a big deal for those who haven't done the research. Um, the game had been played in Columbus, Georgia, and from what we understand, the facility wasn't the largest, but this, with it moving to Birmingham, the game alone is expected to attract over 150,000 fans and alumni. So this is huge for Birmingham. And I can tell you, after going on their website, this is going to be like another Magic City Classic for us. They have the parade, they do several things throughout the week. So this is great for Birmingham. And one thing that I was glad to hear, and I will pass it, we'll start with you, Jasmine, to get your input. This was one thing I was hoping for. I know that we are excited about the new protective stadium. Some of us may have mixed feelings on that. But one of my hopes always was that we didn't forget about Legion Field, known as the Old Gray Lady. That stadium has a lot of history on it from the years when Alabama and Auburn played there. We know about the Magic City Classic. That for years, it was the place where a lot of high school football games took place. For if you're my age or older, you remember that Battle of the Bands, just so many great events. Of course, now jazz festivals and those sorts of things take place there. So I was glad to see that they were bringing this to Legion Field. So Jasmine, I'll start with you to get your input about this. Us having another classic in October.
Well, as you guys know, I'm a Birmingham implant.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't grow up, going to Legion Field, but I have been to the Classic. I have been to UAB games. And I've learned some of the history behind it just by interacting with the people who are there, who work there, who volunteer there, who have been coming there for years. And just people in the community and the way that they set up and they set out. I mean, everyone who lives across the street, they have the grills in their yard and they're ready. And it is a full community involvement situation. And personally, I think it is great. I look at the demographics in Birmingham and how they're shifting. And I think that creating another atmosphere that shows the fun side of college can do nothing but positive things for our city. I think that young kids going out and seeing these parades and seeing these marching bands, oftentimes when they think about college, all they think about is schoolwork and hard work. And that's what is taught and ingrained throughout school. But as much as it is about schoolwork and hard schoolwork, it's also about learning yourself and building community and fun and outreach and creative outlets. And I think that this presents a beautiful opportunity for our kids to see this firsthand. And exposure is the key to establishing a dream. And once that dream is there, they have something to strive for.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Right.
Jasmine said a mouthful, and I absolutely agree with everything she said. Being a Birmingham native and someone who actually grew up less than a mile from Legion Field, I know the significance of it. And with Protective coming, first off, Protective is a bad stadium, first and foremost. But to know that Legion Field is going to still get some quality events, quality games, especially the oldest HBCU classic in the nation. I was happy to hear that, and so I think it's a great move for the city. Another opportunity for Birmingham to showcase what we're all about, and so I'm just looking forward to it. Admittedly, I hadn't been to the classic in a few years, but I'd like to think that coming up, especially with this new classic added, I'll be in the mix at least 2 times a year to Legion Field now. So I'm
Right.
looking forward to that.
Awesome. Awesome. So, and to everyone that's watching tonight, and we may have some, I do see Belinda George Peoples on. She is an ASU fan. That's right. We're ready for all of the classic games. Of course, she's an ASU alumni, and there may be those of you watching. You may be Morehouse or Tuskegee alumni. Like I said, we're excited, and I just encourage everyone to go out and support even our people that don't live in Birmingham. This is something great. You can make it your business to come to Birmingham to support. And I, like Anthony, my maternal grandmother, my aunt lives in the house now. The house is less than a block away from Legion Field. So growing up, I do remember seeing them park cars for the Alabama and Auburn games and for the Classic. So, like I said, to know that, we're going to get something. And let me say this, and this is not a racist statement. I was glad that it was a classic for us once again, because we have to be honest, it could have been another game of magnitude. So I'm glad that this is something that another piece of, as we call it, celebrating our blackness and heritage, that we can say that, hey, well, this is now in Birmingham. So it's just a great thing. So kudos to Mayor Randall Whiffen, Council President William Park, and all of those who were involved in this. So now let's go ahead and get to our discussion. And let me set this disclaimer before we get started. Tonight's topic, we're not talking about anybody. This was just a topic. I've been getting a lot of requests to discuss it, and I waited until I could have Jasmine and Anthony to talk about it. We've tackled a lot of interesting conversations. If you go back and look at some of the previous videos, and I knew that these two would be great to tackle this conversation. So in recent months, it's no secret, it's become national news. We have all seen the incident that happened with gospel singer Kirk Franklin and his son, Kerryon. And then we've also seen the issues stemming that have stemmed in Britain with the whole Meghan and Harry moving to the U.S., leaving behind Harry's British roots. So a lot of that, and they do stem from toxic things. Now, you've read it, you've seen it, you know the history. So that was kind of why I wanted to focus on this, because a lot of times I think when we talk about these conversations, we kind of feel like, well, no, that really doesn't affect me. Well, tonight, to get started, we're going to tell you what toxic is. And after you do this show, you're probably going to need to do some self-examination. I had a few laughs while I was getting information together, because I said to myself, I'm like, oh yeah, I done did that a few times in the past. I mean, you just have to be honest and admit. So let's get started. The first definition of toxic. Toxic is defined as dangerous, destructive, or harmful. Let's say that again. Toxic is defined as dangerous, destructive, or harmful. In other words, it's not good for you. And another definition that I saw from the Urban Dictionary, which relates to us, for all of you who you felt like that first definition was too prim and proper. Toxic is a group of people who are rude and can't be nice. They are not true to people around them. They need an attitude check. Their personalities are so unappealing, it makes the people around them suffer and turn rude as well. Beware of toxics. So those are our definitions. So Jasmine, let's start with you. When you think about a toxic person, tell me what comes to your mind.
So outside of being a therapist, I've also always been what we call an empath, which is one of those people who I feel a room. and too much negative energy, it literally will completely bring me down. I have to go home and recharge if I'm around too much negativity. And so whenever I think about toxic people, I think about those people who walk in a room and you feel the climate change. You feel the air get a little more tense. You feel it get stiffer. You realize everybody's body language changes and everyone has to walk on eggshells around them. They prevent you from being who you truly are. They prevent you from being your best self. And they carry a lot of just negative energy in general. They have a really difficult time finding the positive in anything, and everybody around them knows it. And they swear it's everybody else, but it's you.
All right, Anthony, same question. When you think about toxic person or people, what comes to mind?
Um, I think the best thing that I could say is, or the first thing that comes to my mind, is somebody that's harmful, and that can be emotional, that can be physical, that can be spiritual. Just somebody who is just harmful, just not good for you. They're an absolute drain, and honestly, more they take more from you than they give to you. And so when I think of toxic, of course, everything Jasmine said is absolutely on point in terms of thinking about those types of people. And so I just add that I think that again, first thing comes to my mind is just harmful and just completely draining in every facet.
Absolutely, absolutely. And here's the thing: most people who possess toxic qualities, they don't even realize it that they possess toxic qualities. They believe everybody else has a problem, and they're not the problem. And here is something else. I'm going to share this. Person with toxic qualities, as anyone, some of these qualities can be abusive, unsupportive, as we've all said, in some sort, unhealthy emotionally. And here are some ways, and I'm going to stop after each one and we'll kind of dive in and discuss how do we recognize toxic qualities. The first one, I should have made this one for the last one, but I'll start with it. It's a biggie. Being judgmental. This
Mm.
person may constantly pass judgment on you and others. Now, we've all been around a person like that. We've all been around a person like that. They don't have the cleanest slate, but it's easy to point out what you've done in your past, and they're never gonna let you forget it. Jasmine, why is being judgmental? Let's talk about how that is toxic and why it creates danger not only for the person that's being judgmental, but to the person that they're judging.
I think that we are all guilty of being human, and we see things from our perspective and our experiences. And so it is really easy. Like I heard you laughing earlier say, "Ooh, I went through this list and realized I do some of this." We all do this. We
Mm-hmm.
all judge. Um,
Right.
the issue becomes whenever you judge everything and you make other people feel bad for their choices and their decisions. Because realistically, we don't know their lenses. You are shaped, everything about you is shaped by what you have been through, what you believe, what your values are, and what your morals are. And when I taught, I used to always give the scenario, is stealing bad? And I taught high school. And so every student, yeah, it's bad, it's bad, it's bad. Well, is it still bad if it's a mom with an infant who can't afford food and all she stole was a loaf of bread and a can of milk? And so now we're having a 2 day debate on, is stealing really always bad? And granted, they
Mm.
usually come
Mm-hmm.
to the conclusion that there are other resources out there. But I give that example to show that there's always a loophole. There's always an exception that can make you question something. And if your life has been situations where stealing has been an acceptance your whole life, then it's not as big of a deal for you. And I'm not saying it's right. So all our listeners, don't say I'm promoting that. Let's not take it the wrong way. I'm just giving an example on how something can be perceived as completely negative and how we will take everything and make it black and white, when in reality there's a lot of gray area out there, and that shows our closed-mindedness, and it also limits the scope of others. And when we are so busy passing judgment, it's hard to teach. You can't teach what you are critiquing, and nobody wants to learn from the person who makes them feel bad about their decisions. And if we are going to be educators and we are going to inform, especially when we are working with our youth, it is imperative that we take a step back to say, what can this person learn, but also what can I learn from them? So we can't dehumanize people.
Absolutely. All right, Anthony, same question for you.
Yeah. Man, when it comes to being judgmental, I immediately think about how all of us can be judged on something. Like, nobody is flawless. Nobody is without error. Nobody is without mistake or mess up. And so, man, I just think we do well to, walk a mile in somebody else's shoes. I always say, man, and I did a podcast episode not too long ago where I was talking about being a critic. And if you think about it, man, a critic has the easiest job in the world. Think about food critics. They don't have to know how to cook the meal. They don't have to know how to plate. They don't have to know what ingredients go in it. All they get to do is sit up and eat what somebody else has tried to perfect over years and years and years. And how messed up is it that a restaurant can rise and fall based on the critique of somebody who probably has a tenth of the talent as a chef? But yet, because they are the critic, all they get to do is point the finger, and careers rise and fall. And so I think the same thing for us, man. When we put ourselves in the critic seat, we're doing, first off, it's lazy, and secondly, we're taking on a dangerous role, because if we're going to be honest about it, man, it doesn't take anything for those tables to turn and for the shoe to be on the other foot. And so every time, I get into a place where I feel myself going into a place of judgment and critiquing, especially unfairly, I always try to check myself and say, what if it was you? What if it was you? How would you want somebody to look at you? And how would you want somebody to, quote unquote, judge you based on this situation? And so I think, man, we'd all do well just to kind of every now and then just kind of step back and say, all right, you know what? Let me give them a little bit more grace. Be willing to give the same grace I would expect if I was in a similar situation. So, and being judgmental, that's absolutely a trait of someone who is toxic, simply because, again, talking about being harmful, poisonous, draining, etc. When somebody is judgmental, what they're essentially saying is, I'm not worried about what it is they're going through, what it is that led them to this point. And what they're also saying is, I don't have those issues, so I don't have those concerns. Never mind the fact that life has a crazy way of humbling you, and you can easily find yourself in the very position that you're judging somebody else on.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And one of the things too that we kind of didn't talk about as much is, when you do judge somebody, oftentimes you're thinking less of them and you treat them as less than, which creates that negative energy that we both referred to when we talked about that toxicity in a relationship or in a room. Because if you are judgment of who I am and what I do, and you treat me as if you are better than me, then what that's going to do is it's going to ignite that disdain toward you in my heart. And so I'm going to return that energy. And so now we just all toxic. We're just gonna be toxic together.
Absolutely.
That's right.
And one of the things, anybody who's in my presence, after a while, you probably heard me say this. I always say there's a difference in giving your opinion and judging, but at the same time, you really have to be careful, because sometimes if we're not careful, that opinion can turn into judging people. So you just really have to be careful. The next one on our list, denialist. So a denialist is defined as a person who refuses to take responsibility or apologize for their actions. Jasmine, we'll start with you. What you got for this one?
You mean the person that's always right?
Mhm.
um, the person who's always right is often wrong. I've had to learn that though. And I think that we all go through a phase of learning that. As teenagers, we experience egocentrism, in which the world revolves around us and our parents know nothing.
Mhm.
And then we reach a point in life where we're like, oh, maybe mom and dad knew a little bit more than what I gave them credit for. Maybe they're not crazy. Uh, but it's growing and it's learning and it's accepting that that you don't know it all. But that person who hasn't gotten there yet, especially when I encounter adults who haven't gotten there yet, it's really difficult to be in their presence. As I consider myself a lifelong learner, and a part of growth is willing to change your perspective. It is willing to change your opinion. If you have not changed your mind about anything in 20 years, you have not grown and you have a problem. Um, so you've got to be open to hearing those experiences of other people's and be willing to be open-minded to shift your mindset on stuff as well.
Absolutely. All right, Anthony, same thing. You.
Yeah. I'll just say that kind of going in lockstep with what Jasmine said. The person who refuses to take responsibility for their actions is somebody who is not fit for a whole lot of anything, whether that be leadership, relationship, whatever the case is. The fact of the matter is, all of us have to have a measure of self awareness. All of us have to be willing to acknowledge that we don't have it all together, that we don't know it all. I'm a firm believer that if you're living, then you have an obligation to keep learning. And the minute you stop learning, is probably the minute that you need to go and get taken up out of here, because there's nothing left. There's nowhere left to go. There's nothing left to do. And so I say I'm a firm believer that change is inevitable, but growth is optional. When it comes to change, it's something we experience. If nothing else, 2020 just showed us that change is something everybody goes through. But you have to be willing to, the only way you navigate that change effectively is if you're willing to grow in the process, is if you're willing to continue to learn new things, open your perspective, be willing to admit, you know what? There is nothing wrong with saying, I don't know. There's nothing wrong with that. I'll never forget when I was in college. There was this one person who, every time you brought a topic up, they knew something about it. And I'm like, man, look, there is no way one person can know something about everything. Have enough about you to simply say, you know what, I don't know, and be okay with that. I don't know, to me, is a sign of maturity, whereas knowing something about everything is a sign of you really, really, really trying to be more than what you really are. And that's a whole nother problem in and of itself. So, yeah, if you refuse to take responsibility, then you don't need to be holding anybody's leadership position. You don't need to be holding anybody's heart. You don't need to be holding anybody's hand. You don't need to really be doing much anything with anybody else until you get to the place where you can at least admit, you know what, I still have room where I can grow and get better. And I don't know everything.
Absolutely. And of course, audience, if you have any comments or anything during the show, please or questions for our guests, please get them up and we will do our best to get them up during the show. So the next one, a person who has obsessive neediness. And this is a person who places huge strains on your time and energy. We all know people like this. We all know people like that. It can be in your family. Yes, they can be in your family. It could be that person who's really giving themselves a close seat in your life. That's what they think in their mind, but it's not really that way. It could even be that person at church. You know that person before COVID, you couldn't get to your car fast enough, and they were flagging you down because it was something they needed to talk to you about. That you couldn't get out the parking lot. By the time you went the back door, they were flagging you down, and you said, "Dog, I thought I had beat them." A person that possesses obsessive neediness. So, Jasmine, what you have for this one?
This person needs to see a therapist. A lot of this stuff you can work on through life experiences, but
Mhm.
neediness, it typically has a deeper root. And it's usually avoidance of your own life. Typically, that person who is needy is needing to share somebody else's business or solve somebody else's problems, and they need somebody to listen to it. That's where that attachment comes from. That's where that constant communication comes from. And typically, it is an indication of something else going on that they need to work on getting to the bottom of. So I believe in loving people through their neediness from a distance. You can call me, but I don't always answer. Uh, I, I hit you with that text. What you need? I'm busy right now. Um, and sometimes I really am busy. Sometimes busy is protecting my peace. But
Absolutely.
I think that it is. We all know these people, like you said.
Right.
But I think that these are people we have to give a lot of grace, as Anthony referred to, giving to somebody else earlier. But I think that they have bigger issues going on.
Absolutely. All right,
And
Anthony.
I would simply say ditto to everything she just said. Nothing else to add. On point. Yes, that's it.
Absolutely. And something came back to my mind, Jasmine, as you were speaking. In the time when landline phones were still in existence, I can remember laughing at my mom, my aunts, my grandparents, and even sometimes my dad and my uncles when somebody would call and they say, "Tell them I call them back. Tell them I'm busy." Well, guess what? I've gotten older now, and I find myself doing the same thing. It's okay. Thankfully, thank God for caller ID. You can look at that number, and if you have it set in your phone, guess what? You can make the choice to say you can send that call straight to voicemail, or you can call them back on your terms. It's okay. It is perfectly okay. And here are a few more. We're not going to hit on all of them because time just won't allow, but there are a few. And Anthony is having technical problems. We hope to get him back in shortly. Using others. These are some more characteristics. Controlling. We've already mentioned criticizing. We've already mentioned, well, bullying, manipulating, creating drama. So I can tell you about three, maybe four of those we've got to tackle. We've got to tackle. So let's start with, wow, all of these are kind of strong. Let's see. Okay. Let's start with the using others. And that can be complex too. So you really have to be careful when you encounter people that have a method of using you because they cling to people that are nice. They know they have the sweetest personalities. And there are some people who are just given the defining or you're a person nobody can't say no to you. I have several people that say, jaPaul, I'll do anything I can for you. I just can't say no to you. Yeah, but I'm thinking in my head, but no, you won't use me. It's a strong definition. So using others, and we have to be careful because it can happen before we realize it. So Jasmine, what do you have for people who have a gift of using other people?
Huh.
Um, Here's the thing, because you said a gift for using other people, and I really think they see it that way.
It is.
The people who I know who use other people think that it's a talent.
Mm-hmm.
It is a talent to get people to do what they want when they want it, to get all their needs met in the least, I guess, with the least effort they can put forth in getting. This is the person who they show up in your life when things are good,
Mm-hmm.
because then they can just give you a pat on the back because you don't need nothing. But then they can say, I was there for you But when you're in the bad situation, they're the ones who are ignoring your call and your text messages
Absolutely.
until it is something that they need. And they're good. They're manipulators. So this one kind of ties in with that one. That's why I was thinking whenever you said it's like that they're a manipulator. It is a form of manipulation to be able to use people, because you have to create a circumstance in which everybody around you feels that your situation deserves their time and energy more than their own. And you got to feel like you deserve that
Right.
time and energy that they could be devoting to themselves or their friends or their family. So I think that there is an art to it. I think it has a lot of manipulative, underlying tones to it. But I think that the people who do it, I don't think there's much shame in it. I think that they are prideful. When you hear I'm a girl, and I'm a girl who's, I guess, kind of in the dating scene. I'm in a long-term relationship, but I'm still, a part of it. I ain't married. But you hear girls talk about, what they getting out of guys, and they brag about it. And I mean, this is a thing. Whenever people find out that I've never had my rent paid and I've never had bills paid by a man, like, what you doing?
Mm-hmm.
No, what are you doing, ma'am? So it's a lot. It's a lot.
Exactly. And that is right, Auntie Belinda. They are definitely not ashamed. They are definitely not ashamed. All right, Anthony, what you got for us on this one?
Yeah, I think it's interesting, man, because I wanted to kind of come out of the gate and just blast, users. But I was immediately touched because I think to some extent, if we're honest with ourselves, all of us either have been or could easily be users ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's not to say that we are, users to the level of toxicity and all of that stuff, but I do think, if you think about it, how many times have you, reached out to somebody that you hadn't talked to in a while to ask them for a favor?
Mm-hmm.
We don't see it as using, but on
Right.
the flip side, that person could be like, I hadn't talked to you in weeks, and
Mm-hmm.
this is what you called me for. And so I think it's one of those things where you have your egregious, habitual, this is part of who I am type user, and then you have the more subtle users, which I think all of us can really be at one point or another, simply because as people, I mean, there are times when we need things, we need others, and I think, again, we'll just do well to kind of take a step back, like I just did before, getting ready to just blast people who use and say, you know what, but I've been guilty of that, and more times than I want to admit. Now, I ain't calling asking for nobody to pay my bills and everything like that, but if I'm not, if my level of relationship with somebody is, I thought it was good, or we think it's good, and I'm not really keeping up with them, I'm not really keeping in touch, but I fall in their DM with a, hey, what's up, how you doing? Quick question, which I get that a whole lot. It's people that I'm just like, I hadn't talked to you in years. Matter of
Right.
fact, I don't even know. Some people, I don't even know who you are. And before you even simply ask how I'm doing, you're trying to push a product on me, and I'm just like, what are we doing right now? So,
Absolutely.
so I think, again, just all of us, I think we'd be wise to, of course, stay away from the habitual abusive users, but at the same time, acknowledge in our heart of hearts, you know what? I've had a tendency to do the same thing, not on the same scale, but using nonetheless.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And shout out to Anthony for checking his judgment. For people who not sure how to do it, that's exactly how you do it right there. Good job.
Man,
Exactly. And that's right. It can also come from people who have tons of insecurities. And you
absolutely.
are definitely right, Miss Mason. And this is it, Belinda. God does definitely give you discernment. And she's right. Sometimes when you see things, it can be annoying and hard. And sometimes, guess what? It is what it is. No matter how close that person is to you, no matter how you thought you knew that person, it just is what it is, and it may hurt, but you need to keep your heart guarded at all times. So since Jasmine started, we're gonna go to manipulating. So
Mm,
I kind of want to take a different turn from this because everyone who's watching tonight, we're in the church, we've all been in the church, we've all seen it, and y'all probably know what I'm getting ready to say. We've all addressed it or we've responded, but one of the top things, huge manipulator, the Lord said. Now, let me
mhm,
say, sometimes when we're thrown with that, you know when God has already spoken to you because it's confirmation of what he's already shown you. But 80% of the time, and notice I said 80, I wanted to go higher, but I'm going to stop at 80. People use that thing, the Lord said, to cause you to be guilty about something that you're not doing, that they think you should do, something that you need to do. You don't have the time to do it, and you don't want to
mhm.
stretch yourself too thin. They're good at saying, "Well, the Lord said, the Lord said, the Lord said," and if you're not careful, it can cause you to be guilty, and you can reap yourself. So, Jasmine, manipulating, give it to us.
I think that you gave that prime example. Manipulation comes from it's that the emotional appeal. And if I
Yep.
can convince you that to save yourself from hell and damnation, that you better be at Bible study and church and both services, and Wednesday night service, and an usher board member, and I need you to sing that solo Sunday in the choir too, because the Lord said that you need to give everything to Him.
Right.
What you giving yourself?
Absolutely.
Um, as much as you say, I'm all about protecting your peace. Inside the church, outside the church, it is important that you know what your limits are. And I think that comes from confidence as a person. I think that comes from growth and maturity as an adult and as an individual to establish what are your hard limits. About maybe a year or so ago, I started putting my phone on silence on Sundays. And I do
Mm,
that to protect my peace.
Mm-hmm.
If you need me, I do check it periodically. So I'll respond. Sometimes it's a quick response because you might have texted right before I check it. But it is about learning what are your boundaries, how are you going to protect yourself, and know what limits you have to give to prevent yourself from being able to be manipulated. Because if you know going into a situation that this is what I can do, but this is going to push me too far, you have to make sure that you stay on guard
Absolutely.
and that you don't let them get you, because that emotional appeal, that woe is me, that oh, if you were a good friend, if you were a good
mhm.
brother, that oh, I knew if I called you I can always count on you, all manipulative tactics.
Facts. Facts. At the risk of taking this one to the extreme and lessening some others, which that's not the case, but I would dare say that spiritual manipulation might be the most dangerous form, because when it comes to spiritual manipulation, you're taking something that's good and that's healthy and that's whole when it comes to the Lord, right? You're taking relationship with God, and especially for those of us in, I would say the black church, but honestly, it's not just the black church because I know there are some evangelical spaces where they play on that as well. And so what ends up happening is you end up perverting the word, which is essentially what happens. You end up perverting what quote unquote God said and this, that, and the other. And people know when they use that, that's almost a surefire way to get what you want. Because if you don't, it's like, oh, if I don't do this, then I'm in danger of disobeying or offending God. And and it's especially, I'm glad you just put that comment just came up. it's especially crucial when we use it, when people use it in a way of saying, hey, don't block your blessing.
Absolutely.
I hate that. I hate that. And the reason I hate that is because I'm a firm believer that I cannot block anything that God wants to do in my life. Matter of
Absolutely.
fact, it says in the word that that steps are ordered. He knew us before we came out of the womb. And so here's the thing: if I quote unquote missed something, it wasn't for me to begin with because I'm not strong enough, I'm not big enough, I'm not powerful enough to stop God from doing whatever he wants to do in life. And when people use that, I know now that it is an absolute tactic just to simply drive an agenda. That's
Absolutely.
that's that's what it is. It's a driving agenda. And so I don't let anybody come at me with you gonna block your blessings or God ain't gonna take you to your next level. That's a lie. That's a lie because I can't stop him from doing what he wants to do in my life. If it's for me, it's for me, and I'm gonna get it regardless of what you say. Thus saith the Lord, because it doesn't depend on that. God is relational, not transactional. And so if the only way I can get Y is by doing X, then I've just reduced him to being a cashier. Like when I go to Chick-fil-A and I give them $5 for a sandwich and fry, if I give them a five, they give me that back. God is not like that. God blesses us in spite of us, right? And
Absolutely.
so whenever folks use those tactics, oh, I peep game early now because they're not gonna get that one on me anymore. Back in the day, yeah, yeah, but now that's not happening because that's nothing but a form of manipulation. And again, it's used to drive an agenda that usually benefits them and not me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And my mom just put something up. She must have known this is what I was getting ready to say. The next time somebody comes to you with manipulative words, that's how you reply. God told me he changed his mind before you got to me. Trust me, that will get them every time. Trust me. Can't go wrong with that one.
That's a good one.
And here's a quick story as we're moving on. It's actually funny. Um, there was a project that was happening, and the lady, she's not a member of our church, New Hope, but she's a member of another church. And so um she know me. There's been somewhat of a we've been knowing each other for years, and she called me and she came up with all the reasons in the world why I needed to participate in the project. And I just, after I let her give her spiel, and I said, well, unfortunately, I won't be able to do that. She said, well, you should just do it. And I told her again, no. So she went to what we're going to talk about next. Let me get my screen up. Bullying. When you're not careful, manipulation can turn into bullying because sometimes people just don't take no for an answer. No matter how strong you are, no matter how much you try to avoid them, I'll avoid you in a minute. Yes, I will. Yes, I will. And then here's the thing. They'll kind of ease back and they'll bring other people in. I'm talking to so and so. I think he's really gonna do it, but I didn't have any luck with him. But you can get him. You can get him. This is what I want you to say, and they will pull people in so strong to where it turns to bullying. Jasmine, why we gotta watch out for bullies?
Oof. I've seen it. So a while back, I read a book, and she's a Christian author. Her name is Lisa Turkist, and it is called The Best Yes. And the entire book was about learning how to say no to say yes, how to say no to others to be able to say yes to yourself. And she talked a lot about the bullying atmosphere, and she talked a lot about it in the church and in society, amongst parents and communities. And how oftentimes whenever we use the word bullying, we think about, small kids pushing each other on the playground, but that doesn't compare to the bullying of a whole bunch of people, whether it's in church or in my field of education, all the other teachers at the other end of the hall giving you the side eye, because they done heard that you weren't willing to do whatever it was you were asked to do, which means that you are less faithful. Like you said, God don't love you as much, so I need to keep my distance. Or you don't love kids as much as me, so I'm gonna keep my distance because of what someone else has done. And that is probably the most harmful kind of bullying out there. It ostracizes people. It is an effective manipulation tactic. It is effective, but it is at the degradation of the person who you're actually asking to help you, because it affects people mentally, it affects them emotionally. People go into true self-esteem crises based off of how they are perceived in their communities, because at the end of the day, we're humans. And as a human being, you are seeking companionship and you're seeking love. And that is not all, sexual and relational. A lot of that is within your communities and within your groups. And so if someone is able to get everyone to turn against you, that has much greater ramifications. It becomes way bigger than the project that they're trying to get you on. It starts to take a huge toll on you. But I think it's more negatively reflective of who they are, because a person who seeks to that level to get what it is that they want, they are exactly what we're talking about. They are the toxic person. They are the person who is inadequate, because why do you have to go to that extent? Why can't you do it yourself? Why can't you talk to somebody else? And so I think that it demonstrates a lot of insecurities. It demonstrates a lot of a lack of self-confidence in themselves whenever they have to seek to that level.
Absolutely. All right, Anthony.
Yeah, I would just say, in addition to what Jasmine said, so another reason why we got to really watch out for bullying, and the reason why it's dangerous is because a lot of times the bullied become bullies.
Mm-hmm.
You think about it, as soon as the one who's been bullied, they get some clout. Which, using her education example, if the rookie teacher or the first year teacher now has tenure, and there are now other new teachers coming up behind them, they might find themselves doing to those new teachers exactly what was done to them. When it comes to being in school or whatever the case is on a team, you see it all the time. Whenever the bullied now finds themselves in a position of now being a quote unquote upperclassman or a veteran, and now they've got some status, they tend to do what was done to them, either to kind of even the score based on what happened to them. That they're trying to make sure, I'm not going to be the last one that this happened to. You got some that go that route, and some who say, you know what, I'm going to be the last one this happened to, because I'm gonna change the culture, I'm gonna change the dynamic, I'm gonna shift the paradigm. And so, what I find though is that the bullied become bullies either to even the score or to get desired results. They saw, you know what, well, I got bullied, and it ended up working out for the bully. And so let me do what they did to me because I see it was effective. So let me get what I want to get from this other person or this other situation because I saw how effective it was against me. And so what it does is perpetuate a cycle. And so I think that's one of the reasons why we really, really, really got to pay attention to it and watch out for it, because a lot of times, and again, I'm speaking from experience. I'll never forget, and I hate to admit it. Fortunately, I was real young when it happened, but I'll never forget when I was in fourth grade. I had a group of guys who said, I found out that they were talking and they said they were going to jump me. And, I don't know if y'all, well, for those of you who are from Birmingham or really anywhere, to be honest with you, but you go to a new school, you're the new kid, and hey, it might be on and popping. Folks just going to try you. And so I caught wind of that. Fortunately, it didn't happen. But the very next year, fifth grade, and then sixth grade as well, I never forget. I found myself bullying younger guys who were a little bit weaker, because it was just kind of the thing to do. It happened to me, so I'm gonna do it to them. And I hate to admit it, but as I grew up, of course, I realized to start speaking up for those who can't speak for themselves, and for the bully, quote unquote, because the only way to stop the cycle is to do just that, is to stop it. I'll admit that I succumbed to it early on, but since then I have I've tried to grow and be much better in life, whether that's work and church and whatever the case is. I just keep an eye out for it because I know that if you stop cycle, all that happens is bullies continue to grow and birth other bullies, and that's good for nobody.
Absolutely.
And Anthony, for our parents out there who have kids who are in that same situation or have had a similar experience, it's important. Like, I wish, my heart goes out to you for that experience that you had. But I wish that someone had sat down with you and pointed out that the behaviors you exhibited as a fifth and sixth grader were more about your insecurities with yourself than
Mhm.
it was about that other kid. Because at that point, it's not necessarily, for most kids, it's not
Hmm.
necessarily about, oh, well, if it happened to me, then somebody else should get it too, as much as it
Right,
is, I never want to feel that way again. I
Right.
never want to
right.
feel like other people are above me. So now I have to be big and bad enough to make sure that doesn't happen.
Yep.
And so I think that we see that a lot in our schools. And I think that we're seeing parents who were bullied or were the bully, but either way, they've seen the success of it. And so they, instead of encouraging their kids to stand up for the small person, they tell them,
Yeah,
toughen up, man up, go and handle it yourself. And if you don't
yeah,
want to feel that way, you need to be on top. And so we're
right.
perpetuating that culture, which is toxic for our children.
That's right. That's right.
Absolutely.
That's
Absolutely.
right.
All right. Just a few more minutes. I want to make sure we tackle as much as possible. I got to do this one. Creating drama. We all know those people. They don't want you to like somebody because they don't like somebody. Most of the time, they don't have a valid reason of why they don't like the person. They don't like the person. They take their feelings to social media. It can be so bad to they will purposely overlook the person that they don't like when they're in the presence of other people. It's drama. Every time you talk to these individuals, it's always something going on at their workplace. They can never identify their own problems, but it's always something with everybody else. Um, she looked at me the wrong way. It's just drama, 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 drama. She walked by my desk and she bumped my keyboard. It's just drama. It's drama. What do we say to these drama filled people, Jasmine?
Um, it's funny because Anthony talked about his childhood story. I was on the receiving end of the drama. I'm light skinned with long hair. I always been light skinned with long hair, and now it don't mean anything as an adult. But when you were in elementary school and middle school, it was a problem. I was always the center of stuff, even when I didn't have anything to do with it. And so I have these memories of people, I guess, kind of putting my name in the mix of stuff that I didn't know about, and people ask me about situations that I didn't know about. And I think it forced me to grow up to kind of be a person who is so anti-drama that I think it kind of forced me into therapy. I became the person that all of my friends confide in, and then they don't find out that they all confide in me until I know every side of the story from every single perspective. And then we all end up together, and one of them thinks that they saying something to me, and then the other one says something like, "Oh, you know about that?" And I'm like, "Yeah, you didn't even tell me. You let me tell you the whole thing. You let me complain about her." Sure did. And it's just because I know that giving my feedback in that situation or becoming a third party to a two-party situation creates drama. Um, and it's taken my life experiences, as we kind of talked about earlier, that have made me so anti-drama that is literally how I function. And all my friends
Uh,
think it's hilarious now because if they have an issue with someone else who's in our circle and they're calling me to vent about it, like, how you have you talked to her yet? Have you talked to him yet? Um, and does it matter? Is it gonna make you not talk to me if I have or if I haven't? So I think that it's a growth thing, but I think that this atmosphere of enjoying drama is becoming more prominent with the increase of social media because drama gets likes. So
Absolutely.
if I can have a
Yep.
good argument or a good fight or a witty comeback, then everybody's going to like it. And therefore, it makes me feel better as a person. So we're seeing it a lot more. I follow people from my hometown who are captains of Team Petty. And I just scroll it and giggle to myself from afar. But that drama, they thrive. They thrive.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, that's truth. I think on some level, drama kings and queens started out as drama princes and princesses. like,
Mhm.
typically, you just don't find a grown man and grown woman who just immediately say, you know what, at this point in my life, I'm going to just invest and involve in drama. Like
Right.
typically there's a pattern that starts somewhere in the past, and so it just kind of continues on. Um, but honestly, man, long story short, when it comes to drama, whether it's not you said creating drama, that's that's on so many levels because that's somebody who wants to keep up mess. That's somebody who wants to create toxic situations. That's somebody who wants to bring strife to relationships. But in terms of if we're talking about somebody who is maybe in the middle of drama and they're just kind of toting it back and forth or kind of pseudo complaining about it when really they enjoy it, I think one way that we can diffuse that is to disarm them by simply saying, "What did you do to help the situation?"
Mm-hmm.
Like
Absolutely.
just straight up, what did you do to help the situation? And that right there should put them on their heels because it's like, hey, if one, why are you bringing it to me? Two, if it's really bothering you or if it's an issue, then what can you do to help? What can you do to fix the situation and not just keep toting this water back and forth? Because at some point, somebody has to be the adult. Somebody has to say enough is enough.
Absolutely. 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 So we are almost down to the last few minutes, and we won't go through all of these. These are some of the responses that people who exhibit toxic traits, they come with the blame game. As we said, they're always blaming someone else, even isolation, because they're always the victim. It's nobody else. It's always them. Nobody understands me. Walking on eggshells. And something I want to say before we continue, as you just were talking about social media, y'all stop putting all your business on social media. Stop, men and women. It's become the new norm, but you have to learn to do things different because we don't care. And a lot of times you're doing this for a reaction. And yeah, it doesn't. And some of y'all are too old to be doing it anyway. You're in your 50s and 60s. Stop. Leave that to children. You need to do self-examination to figure out what part did you play. I mean, serious. It's enough problems going on in the world without you adding your extra stuff. When 9 times out of 10, you never honestly gonna say the part that you played. It was always this person that hurt me, this person that did this. But one of the last things I really want to take time, setting boundaries. Setting boundaries. This is the key to somewhat being free of toxic people. Setting boundaries. When you love yourself and when you really care about yourself, as we've all said tonight in so many ways, you're going to be very protective of your peace. So, for example, people that are manipulative, and I see you may possess those characteristics. Even before it sparks into that, I'm shutting the conversation down. Whatever I got to do to rid myself from that conversation, I'm shutting it down because I protect my peace and I protect my energy and I protect my space enough to know that it's not healthy for me. Because guess what? Just like that person can be toxic, I don't think we realize sometimes their toxic traits, it could cause us to become toxic as well because you've allowed that person to consume your space.
Mhm.
You've allowed that person to consume your space. And my dad said it best, love them from a distance. And there's nothing wrong with that. Love them from a distance. Yeah, sometimes they may want you to go to that favorite restaurant or to that favorite club and kick it just so they could dish out all the tea, as they like to call it. But sometimes, if it means protecting your peace, there gonna be sometimes you gotta say, no, you know what? You
Yeah.
go enjoy. You have at it. I can't do it because you love yourself and you validated yourself enough to know that just that's just something that I can't consume myself with. So, Jasmine, let's talk about how important it is to set these boundaries.
It's funny. So, my boyfriend and I did a turnaround road trip to Georgia yesterday for my friend's wedding reception. And one of the conversations we had was about our relationship. And he says, it took me, because we've been together now for about a year and a half. He says, you're always so happy. It just seems fake. And so
Mm.
it took me a long time to realize that that's genuinely who you are. And I immediately came back with, it took a long time for me to get here. And he's like, well, what do you mean? I said, I was in my mid 20s. I was living in Atlanta and I was so worried about who I was around and making sure I was with the right crowd and invited to the right events and on this correct echelon that I saw myself as needing to be on. But what I was doing was surrounding myself with people I didn't even
Mhm.
like. And so I started ridding myself of that toxic energy. I started, like your dad said, love them from a distance.
Right.
Like I don't have to completely cut you off. I can still be cordial. I can still be casual, but I don't need to be in your mix. I don't need to be in your presence. Um, I quit going to things I didn't want to be at. I left jobs I wasn't happy at.
Mhm.
I turned down volunteer opportunities that were going to cause me more stress than happiness. And I said, and I finally reached a point in my life where I am truly happy.
Right.
And
Mm.
if I'm not happy, I look at what I've added recently that's made me unhappy and I change it. So when you see me smile, it's genuine.
Right.
It's genuine because I've gotten rid of those people who didn't mean me any good, who were only there for the drama and for the entourage at whatever birthday party they were having, and they were just looking for a crowd who didn't care about my well-being. When I talk about my friends now, I'm referring to those people who, if I called right now in tears, they're gonna stop whatever they doing and ask, all right, I need to come to Birmingham or not. Those are my people. And so whenever you can get rid of the excess and cut it down to your people, and you can find things that truly make you happy and pursue your passions, those are your boundaries.
Right.
I ask myself, does this bring me joy? Is it helping me? Is it making my opportunities better in the future? Am I helping other people? Because I get joy from helping other people. So
Absolutely.
that could be
Right.
genuine as well. Um, but yeah, those were my boundaries. And I had to set it up that I'm not on a pursuit of riches, I'm on a pursuit of happiness. And that is what my boundaries align to.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, Anthony, what you got for us in setting those boundaries?
Yeah, I think that last thing that Jasmine said is so, so key. Once you identify, what you want your life to look like, whether it be purpose, whether it be opportunity, whatever the case is, once you identify what it is you want your life to look like, then you make decisions that'll help you get there, right? And so, something I've learned and I try my best to adhere to now is the fact that no is a complete sentence.
Mm-hmm.
And when it comes to saying it, you don't have to explain your no. It's just that it's no, plain and simple. If I would look, because look, if somebody were to ask you to do something and you were to say yes, they would take it and run with it. So my
Right.
thing is do the same thing with my no. Take it and run with
Absolutely.
it. Don't ask me why. You wouldn't ask me why I said yes. Don't ask me why I said no. No is a complete sentence. That's something I've really worked hard to to get to a place of being able to embrace and really, really employ as often as need be. And also, um, I really believe that I think a good way to establish boundaries, in addition to all the good stuff that Jasmine said, is also to realize that if it or they no longer serve you, you may no longer need to serve it. All
Absolutely.
right, whether that be roles in church, whether that be volunteer or look, I can't tell you how many volunteer boards I sat on 7, 8, 9 years ago because I saw that as, you know what, this is going to raise my profile. This is going to get me, where I'm trying to go. And so what it resulted in was a lot of after work commitments that I dreaded because, 9 years ago I had a young family. Me and my wife had only been married for a year and a half or so. She was pregnant, and so it was just a lot going on. And so I really had to get to the place of saying, okay, what is important right now? What do I want life to look like? Is it, as Jasmine said, the pursuit of status, wealth, riches, etc., or is it the pursuit of something bigger? And
Mhm.
so I'm a firm believer we have to make money, no doubt. We got to make money, but I try my best these days to make more memories than I do money. Look, I
Yeah.
pray. I pray that the money comes and that we gonna be, rolling in it and we gonna have not a care in the world financially. But at the end of the day, I would much rather be, where I am right now financially and have the greatest relationship with my wife, my kids, we doing things together, vacationing together, doing little stuff together, like just going out to eat, whatever the case is, as opposed to being gone 12, 14, 16 hours out the day, seeing them only, a weekend here, a weekend there because I'm on the grind, quote unquote,
Abs-
making all the money, but losing so much more in terms of relationship on the flip side. And so that I just got to a point where I had to say, you know what? All right, if it serves me, I can still serve it, which means it has to be a two-way street. I might not get everything from it that I'm giving to it, but I got to get something. I got
ab-
to get something, right? Because if not, that creates an imbalance, and that creates burnout, and that creates resentment, and that creates a whole lot of problems that are hard to come back from.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And as we come to the end of our show, I just want to leave each of you with a few things to consider. As I said at the beginning of the show, this show was not directed towards anyone. For those who've been watching us since day one, you already know that's not how we operate. But every show is to help you do self examination on yourself. Um, think about those times when you did give so much of yourself. Did you realize that could be toxic? Let me say that again. Giving too much of yourself and getting nothing in return. That's toxic, y'all. Those times when you said, I should have said that, but I didn't say anything, you held your feelings in. That's toxic. And that could be why you don't have the peace that you long for. So, what I
Mm,
challenge everyone to do that's watching this tonight, I want you to do self examination on yourself. Think about those people, situations, and things that are in your life. Do they consume you to the point where it's draining?
mhm,
And if you answer yes, it's time for you to release some things. Yes, you can pray. God gives us free will, choice, and decisions. But when it comes to your peace and your health, you have to protect that above anything else because God gave you that gift and you should never want to self sabotage that gift that He gave you. And then take time to heal and make sure that you're giving out positive vibes because I'm going to tell you, people know who they can bring their trash to. They already know. Sometimes people may try you, but if you hold yourself in a high regard, 9 times out of 10, they'll say, no, I can't get that one. Ain't no chance. And then last one, understand that toxic behavior is real. It is real and it does exist. And then how I want to close tonight and then I've allowed my guests to let us know how they can contact us. Um, there's a passage of scriptures. One of my favorite scriptures is Proverbs 4:23. The New International Version says, above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. And then the Message version says, keep vigilant watch over your heart. That's where life starts. Guard your heart. Guard your heart, y'all. Let's all do that. Be careful what you let in. Sometimes you got to put that phone down. Sometimes what's going on social media is not important because sometimes you can get so consumed with things that are put out. And guess what? People know when they put something out, they already know, hey, if I put this out, I'm going to get a lot of likes and a lot of likes. These people don't know me for real. People already know. Don't get fed up in that stuff. It can wear at your spirit and it can begin to help you to become that toxic person that you have tried so hard to stay from. So that is our show for tonight, and hopefully something that we've all said will be beneficial to you. So Jasmine, tell people where they can find out more information about you.
Before that, I do like the fact that you close with the Lord said, protect your peace, because that was
Yes,
a big summary of what you just said
yes,
there. um, with
yes,
any
absolutely.
questions or comments, I can be reached through Facebook. I do work for a family counseling center, Impact Family Counseling. If you or someone you know of is in need, feel free to contact our office to get an appointment set up.
All right, Anthony.
Awesome, awesome. Thanks so much for having me again. It's always a privilege to be on, and I love sharing the space with Jasmine, who always drops gems. So thank you for what you do. You can reach me on social media, Anthony D Sparks, username across all platforms, or you can check out my website, www.anthonydsparks.com, and you can reach me through there as well. And I'm pretty good at responding pretty quickly, so feel free either of those ways. Just shout at me.
Absolutely, absolutely. And again, thank you for watching tonight. And to all of our regular viewers and our first time viewers, we thank you for tuning in. As always, you can follow us at Facebook and Instagram. Everything is under Divine Vision Entertainment. Our website, Divine Vision ENT. And if there's a topic that you like to talk about, feel free to message me. I do respond, and we do have some things lined up, but we always would like to hear what our viewers are thinking and what you have to say. So again, if there's something that you'd like to discuss, please let us know. Get ready for next Monday. We have another awesome show planned for you. And before I close the show, let me thank my mom again, who was our guest for our Mother's Day show. It was an awesome share with my mom. We will do the same thing for Father's Day with my dad. Also, special thanks to everyone who submitted essays for the Mother's Day basket giveaway that my mom sponsored. We did announce those winners on the show. Kudos to all of the winners. Fathers, we aren't forgetting about you. We do have a Father's Day basket giveaway. Those that information will be announced on next week. So everyone who's watching tonight, you're a father. Those kids can register you or submit an essay on why you're the world's greatest dad. And again, we will have outsiders to pick our winners. Or if you are a son or a daughter and you want to submit your dad, that's right, Anthony, get your boys to get that essay ready. Or if you are a son and you are a daughter and you want to submit your dad, please do so. It's going to be a good experience. It's always, and let me say this last thing because I've been getting a lot of emails regarding this. So I am well aware that Governor Biden has said that um, you don't have to wear masks anymore, and he's put stipulations on that. However, and we know that several stores are saying to shop in their stores, you don't have to wear a mask. However, you do what is best for you and
Mhm.
don't down anyone because they choose to keep wearing the mask. I know that a lot of churches are in the process of opening. If you're not ready to go back
Mhm.
to church and you don't feel it's safe, don't let anyone judge you. Don't let anyone talk you out of it. You do what's best for you. God gave us
Right.
all five senses, but one that we lack sometimes so much is common sense. This virus is not gone. Yes, we have the vaccine, and I thank God for the vaccine, saying that I'm fully vaccinated, and I know that many of you watching are fully vaccinated. But the coronavirus is still existent. So, y'all, let's please do what we need to do and use common sense. Use common sense. Don't let anybody manipulate you. Don't let anybody come to you with toxic behavior. That's one way you can protect your peace. Do what works best for you. So, again, keep the faith. Have a great night, and we will see you on next Monday.